From the Beaver County Auto Studios, it's another Penguins Live Chat. Hey, thank you all for joining us. I am Dan Kingerski, and you will see me momentarily right here. Hey, how are you? Man, is it cold downtown today. I took the walk over to the studio here, and believe me when I tell you, things froze. And like my ears were red and ringing, and so it goes, let me lower my chair just a hair here. Today's unique technical difficulty was, in fact, apparently there's too many videos in the system, and so it was freezing up, so I had to go back through like 30 steps to delete things from the iPad. And if you have an iPad, you know how crazy that is. Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins today. Are they playoff ready? And specifically, I want to get into two very important details. I got a little bit from Jake Guentzel last night. He told me what I wanted to hear, which for Guentzel in a media scrum is kind of big news unto itself. We'll talk about what Jake said when I kind of pressed him a little bit on the momentum on the identity issue in just a little bit. Also, we'll talk about that specific identity and how the Penguins have been playing, what Jack Johnson said. Today is, Wednesday? So Jack would have said that on Monday. Yeah, that's it. Sometimes the days run together, kids. And so I want to talk about their identity and also Eric Branson a little bit. Now that I think the Jack Johnson storm has weathered just a little bit, has it? So we're going to, I guess maybe pile on Eric Branson for a little while now. Let me turn my sound down. Okay, right about there is where I want to be. So we'll get into the Branson stuff. I don't know if you're seeing the same things I've been seeing. I want to you know what? In fact, as we talk about what's playoff ready, and I thank everyone for watching. I know it's not the trade deadline anymore, so what is it that everybody comes out for the trade deadline, but when the actual hockey's being played, everyone's like, I'll wait till the playoffs. I have to tell you, that is one of the most irritating things about this job, because now is when it gets really fun. I know it's fun to speculate about the trades. 90% of it never happens because it's conversations. We're peering into negotiations, and it's almost like public polling. By the time the pollster takes a snapshot of the electorate, that train's already moved. And by the time we get wind of conversations, they're usually several days old or a day or two old. Things have moved since then. So when Pittsburgh Hockey Now said, hey, Dallas called about Derek Brassard, I have no doubt our source was 100% correct, but that was probably 2 or 3 days, of talks, and by the time that I got to write it and put it out on the internet and the interwebs there, obviously we found out that something else had been cooking with Florida and Brassard. So this is the substantive. This is the real part. This is the fun part. When you begin to find out what players have, what teams have, like really have, deep in their heart. And you begin to find out systems and coaches, and I'll be happy to walk you through the nitty-gritty. This is, I think, what I do maybe as well or better than anybody else in the market. And I don't mean to pat myself. I'm just very proud of the work I've put in to accumulate knowledge, and more importantly, not just like my knowledge, which is maybe here, but the contacts and the smart people who work for teams and do, professional coaches and scouts who really double check me and sometimes break my stones. No, Dan, here's what you're actually seeing. And they guide me in the right way, and I'm able to present that to you. So I want to, let's start with what Jack Johnson said. Let me pull up this photo here, because I think Jack Johnson was 100% correct when he said on Monday, the Penguins took a step forward in the Stadium Series game. Now, I know fan sentiment was, pretty negative on Matt Murray for that game, and quite frankly, Matt Murray's sentiment was pretty negative on Matt Murray after that game. But what happened was, and I thought Johnson explained it very well, and you hopefully you saw the article on PittsburghHockeyNow.com. The team in that moment, without Chris Letang, without Brian Dumoulin, rallied around the defenseman. They rallied around the defense and began really picking up the slack in their own game. They began to come back deeper into their own zone. They began to actually pay attention on the yucky side of the blue line. And it began right here in Philadelphia. You've seen now points in 5 straight games for the Penguins. 3-0-2. That O is quite important because Montreal is winning. Carolina is 5-0-1 in their last 6. Their only loss came last night against the Boston Bruins in overtime, so they still got a point. They and the Penguins are tied at, 79 points. Carolina has one more ROW than Pittsburgh, so they've got that tiebreaker. And the Penguins are still tied with Montreal, too. Columbus had a terrible game in New Jersey last night. By all accounts, I haven't watched it, so I'm regurgitating secondhand info. But from the New Jersey side and from the Columbus side, the Blue Jackets stunk out the barn and still managed to get 2 points. That's a big 2 points for Columbus. That's the kind of thing that can spark a team. So the Penguins are by no means out of the woods, but they're taking those steps forward. I want to show you some examples here. I'll get to you on the message board too. Let me see which end starts and which end ends. Okay, I think. Yep. Here is one of Phil Kessel's great chances last night. And I want you to notice, look in the screen, in that scoring box. What do you see? 4 Penguins. Aston Reese created a turnover at center ice, barged the puck forward. The Penguins got some good ice in the offensive zone. Evgeny Malkin, see him kind of the top left corner of your screen, just below that little score graphic, won a puck battle on the wall. Kessel found good ice in the seam of the Florida defense. And you can see on the bottom there, Zach Aston Reese swinging around. But also, and I'm going to segue this kind of into the Eric Goodbranson conversation, look who's in the scoring zone there. Look at the Mammoth taking a peek, coming to the circles and the hash marks. Because he realizes Florida is going inward. There's already 3 coming low, and there's actually a 4th trucking towards the net as well. So Goodbranson does the smart thing. Yeah, he kind of whiffed on the own goal in the first couple of minutes Tuesday night. No question about that. After that, the first 10 minutes, and there was a turnover, as I recall, too, or a time or two when he wasn't quick with the puck and the forecheck kind of got to him again. That's been a little bit of a bugaboo on Goodbranson. I'll never cheerlead for anybody. I'll tell you the straight and skinny. But there's Goodbranson. His game immeasurably picked up. Rather than sulking, going in the tank, or getting worried about making a mistake, what he did was he just stepped it straight up. He went after it at that point. There was not a Penguins defenseman who was as aggressive in the neutral zone as Goodbranson last night. There really wasn't. He was large between the blue lines, as well as on his own side of the blue line. But he was large between the blue lines. I found that very fascinating, that he was stepping forward. And in fact, let me grab one of these photos here. I do have, this one. A still from last night just after Crosby scored. And this actually, that was Crosby then behind the net just after he scores on the forecheck. Florida has to just chip it ahead. Well, look what happens. Goodbranson getting back on defense realizes there's about to be a loose puck. Comes barreling back into the zone and fires it towards the net. That led, here it is. That led to Nick Bukestad having a glorious rebound chance on Luongo. These two things, talking with my hands, these two things are simultaneously occurring, and I think they go hand in hand as well. Count the Penguins around the cage here. From the hash marks in, there are 3 Penguins, and Goodbranson was coming forward too. That's putting pressure on Florida. That's Florida having their backs to your goal and their face to their goal. That's winning hockey. That is winning hockey 10 of 10 times. What would Bob and Doug McKenzie say about that? Yeah, take off, you hoser. No, Dad wants the last jelly. By the way, for those of you who have been part of these live chats over the past couple of months, I am finally, dear Lord, into my apartment. What an ordeal that has been the last couple of months, but I am in. I am no longer technically couch surfing at an Airbnb, or I even stayed, at the family home. We'll church it up. I didn't stay with my parents for a week. I went to the family home because I just couldn't take the Airbnb wait any longer. But I'm in my place, and so I was moving. I found lots of cool stuff that I have no place for, including Bob and Doug. If you look real closer, you can see the KB Toy and Hobby price tag on that. I think I got them for like $2 a piece at the going out of business sale. And while I'm rolling through my phone here, there's 8-month-old Leo, the grand kid du jour, who doesn't like to crawl. He is skipping, crawling. He's like, the hell with this, I want to walk. So he gets mad that he can't walk yet. He keeps pulling himself up on everything and standing there and like wanting to go. That's my boy. Okay, let me get to the message board here. Sid is unstoppable. I expected him to step up, but not this much. Exotic Farmer, you are 100% correct. I mean, what's it, 5 straight multi-point games? Is he third in NHL scoring yet, or still kind of right there in 4th place? And not just the points. What Sid is doing on the ice. And I'll go back to this graphic. Where do I have it? Which one? Kind of maybe, partially, sort of. Yeah, we'll use this one. I've got a bunch. Look, even when Sid isn't leading the play down low, he's putting himself in a scoring position. Man, Kessel wanted this one bad. He doesn't get it, but the rebound comes to the great white shark, Sidney Crosby. And he made no mistake about it either. That's what I really... the Penguins' new identity, and we've talked about this. If you're new to it, I'll encapsulate real quickly. The Penguins' identity that Mike Sullivan has been talking about, the players have been talking about getting to, is not traditional Penguins hockey. It's greasy, it's grimy, it's simple, it's gritty, it's jam, it's sandpaper, it's playing down low, it's hanging on to pucks, it's pressuring the defense in the corners, it's playing 200 feet, it's coming back and throwing a shoulder into the opponent in your own zone to take the puck and transition. It's not necessarily playing on the rush, although if a team wants to give it, they'll take it. It's getting across that red line and assessing the situation. It's chipping it off the wall for a quick runner play on the mid-wall. It's chipping it down deep and letting your cross-ice runner go in and get it and crashing the net. This is new Penguins' identity. That was a pretty good rant, wasn't it? Those are the things that this team has not done this season, despite, the foot in their backside from Mike Sullivan. Part of the last 5 games and what makes it so different, and why I think if you're a Penguins fan, there is legit cause for optimism. There is absolutely there is a budding identity, and the Penguins are buying into it now. It only took the injury of Chris Letang and Brian Dumoulin and Olli Maatta for them to really grasp it. But with their back against the wall and actually feeling that pressure and a bit of desperation, and you know what? Without Letang, maybe a bit of fear. Without Letang, perhaps it was fear that led them to cling on to the life raft that is their true identity. And those are the pictures I've been showing you now for the past 16 minutes. Going to the net, playing that greasy, grimy hockey. Because when they start doing that, they can out-talent anybody. I think they can even out-talent Tampa and Toronto. Especially Toronto, because Toronto's skill is going to be on the rush, the transition, the speed, the beauty part that I know you've grown up loving with the Penguins. But I don't think Toronto can hang when the Penguins start pushing them and pressuring them down low, below the hash marks, between the dots. I think the Penguins become maybe, possibly on Tampa's level with a healthy blue line if they play that way. I think Tampa's a bit deeper, well, actually a lot deeper on the blue line. Tampa can roll 3 defensive pairings that are superior to the Penguins, but not by much. And I'll tell you what, if Goodbranson continues his ascension, I see the seeds in him really blossoming, very much in a Justin Schultz sort of way. I dismissed that when a lot of fans made that comparison when he was first acquired. And that was kind of the rosy, optimistic view. Hey, they resuscitated Schultz. They can do it to him as well. I'm like, well, let's see. He'll never be quite the Schultz defender. But I see a guy without the shackles on right now. And I think he is really embracing it, just in the locker room. Seems like a happy guy. I can't speak to what he was in Florida or Vancouver. I can only speak to what he has said to the reporters, to us in the locker room. There's optimism in his words, and it's not that phony optimism. It's like it's accompanied by a deep breath and like, yeah, this is kind of cool. Being back in the defensive zone and having options to move the puck, being able to step into the play. Vancouver had a bit more of a simplistic system from Willie Desjardins, who was almost the Penguins coach. Don't forget, they had kind of the one option, very simplistic system. Defenseman, you go play defense. And I think he's digging the Penguins' way of doing things. Okay. Exotic Farmer also says, look at Jake's contract. Just looks more and more like an absolute bargain. I'll tell you what. If I were 24 and making $6 million like Jake Guentzel, there would be companies hiring party buses to follow me around. Charlie Sheen would be like, dude, calm down. But Guentzel is just on fire. He and Sid, there's a natural chemistry. If you want to argue that Guentzel is Crosby's best line mate ever, strong case for it. Now, don't forget, Sid got Chris Kunitz on the Canadian Olympic team. That's no small feat. So, if Guentzel, I guess actually there isn't going to be a next Olympic Games, probably, right? They're not going to go in 2020, so I guess we can't use that as a measuring stick. Guentzel clearly has more finish than Chris Kunitz ever did. Kunitz a bit more gritty, a little better on the walls, a little stiffer. Certainly a bit more sandpaper to the game than Gensel has. So you take the good and the bad, but it's kind of fun watching Sid right now. In fact, it's not kind of fun. It really is fun because Sidney Crosby just plays hockey like every Canadian is instructed from the time they're 4 years old, 5 years old, first team you're on. He does everything to the letter and does it with such intensity and spirit. He was on the forecheck last night. And I mean, you know Sidney Crosby's hockey IQ is, there's Einstein, Gretzky, Lemieux. Crosby may be on the same level. And you saw him really picking the Florida forecheckers, looking at their shoulders and taking a step this way, a step that way to create turnovers, to create pressure. It was subtle. It was so subtle, just the way he would leave his stick. Watch it if you get a chance. Forget about the rest of the hockey game and just watch Crosby doing some of the little things. I don't know that you can even teach how good he is. You can tell people to go at the player to forecheck, but the nuances that he notices in real time and adjusts to, extraordinary. All right. Hey, Tyler. May be crucified by some fans, but I don't think Branson has been bad in his first few games with the Pens. Some poor puck luck on the first goal last night, but overall not bad. He's generally played 5 good games, Tyler. Mike Sullivan, I think, is quite happy with him. You may be able to tell by my comments that I certainly give him a passing grade. In fact, for about 45 to 50 minutes last night, I'd give him an A+. I mean, really, I'd give him an A+ for 45 minutes last night. You have to take that first goal into account. He kind of short-strided it, maybe didn't take good position on, was it Trocheck, and then deflected it into his own goal. And then there were some bobbles in his own zone. But the rebound, in the metaphoric sense, not the literal sense, of course. The rebound after that, fantastic. So at this point, and I saw the blogs just loving it that he screwed up. I keep an eye on them because I want to know what information you're seeing as well. So I take a peek, and they were just loving the fact that Goodbranson was at fault for that first goal. The pylons, man, they had the trampolines out, the diving board. They were stretching. They were ready to go. And of course, what am I going to say? Have at it, I would like the blogs to return to where they were when I started in that genre 15, 16 years ago. Really trying to be taken seriously as a media outlet rather than kind of feeling like they're the megaphone of the fan, or their job is to amplify against media. I really think things would work better the old way, but the world changes, and I don't exactly get a say all the time. Hey, Chris Myers back. Do you have more faith in the lineup this season or last this season? No question about it. And Chris, I'm glad you brought that up because one of the things I wanted to touch on was, let me get back to that picture. This is why, Mr. Chris Meyer. Take a look, bottom of your screen there. Nick Bjugstad was shot out of a cannon last night. I had the chance, it was part of the media scrum, but there were only a couple of us there. Jeff Hathorn of 93.7 The Fan, who is just a pro's pro. And it's nice when you're in a small group. We take turns asking questions. We don't talk over each other. We let each other kind of get the angle out before the other person jumps in and takes it a different. It's a nice little conversation, so I have to get this up on the website. Don't let me forget. Bjugstad has really becoming comfortable as a third-line center. And maybe I was parsing his words a little too much. I believe he's more comfortable at center than right wing. In fact, I know so. He actually even said the words, "I'm more comfortable." So, it's going to be a lot of this. My confidence in the roster and my projection for the Penguins' ultimate destination, for good and bad, is going to rest and rely on where Bukestad settles in and how he settles in. I don't think Jared McCann is long for that top line. I really don't. I think he'll be kind of an interchangeable part here very soon with Brian Rust. Maybe a little bit of Dom Simone when Simone has it going. I don't know. I don't know how much longer Zach Aston Reese is going to be on the second line. I think we'll see maybe a little bit of a jump start move there soon as well. And then you're what Mike Sullivan is building towards. Can I tell you a secret? What Mike Sullivan is building towards is a bit of a Scotty Bowman-esque lineup, where based on the matchup, based on who has the legs that night, those are the lines. You're going to see Gensel and Crosby together. You're probably going to see Malkin and Kessel joined at the hip from heretofore. You're going to see Bukestad and Hornquist. I think they like that grime on the grime line. There you go. And I think you're going to see Cullen anchor that fourth line. You're going to see Cullen then take occasional spots on the third line too, like they did last night for defensive purposes. Last night, I don't get it. The Penguins' fourth line played 5 or 6 minutes last night. And yet when they hit the ice, I thought they were very good. They put the puck in the offensive zone and applied pressure. I didn't necessarily agree with icing the fourth line. But I will tell you, take a look at the advanced stats. And that Penguins' third line last night, monster numbers. Nick Bukestad, he kicked Riley Sheahan's ass from pillar to post. Sheahan was in the defensive zone all night. You saw from that picture there, Nick Bukestad was crashing the net. They had great chances. Hornquist had some close pokes. Dom Simone might be one of the most underrated players in recent Penguins history. The little slick plays he makes to spring offense. They're just a quick touch of the puck 5 feet. Boom, and he's gone. He's off to the clean ice to play it again. The guy's never going to score 20 goals, I don't think. I'm coming to the conclusion he's got some hard hands. Maybe not that finisher's patience or touch. But, man, he does everything else so well. When he's on. As Mike Sullivan, I think, maybe correctly put it, when he's got the urgency to his game, when he's got that hop, he does everything else well but light the lamp. And that makes that third line something to behold, pretty formidable. All right, hey, Brian Conway, how is you? From Joe, Goodbranson hasn't been the Corsi black hole that everyone warned us about. No, I think Goodbranson was last night. Goodbranson was 71% scoring chance for. That's really good. 61% Corsi for. And if you're using Corsi to judge a player, just stop. You start with scoring chances. You really do. And then if the scoring chances are in negative territory, then you begin to cycle through the rest of the stats. You look at defensive zone, offensive zone starts. You look at shots. You look at Corsi. You even look at Fenwick. See if a lot of block shots. And somewhere along the line, you have to kind of reconcile all of that with the eye test. I think there have been a few games. In fact, the first period last night, the Penguins had 2 shots in the first 18, 20 minutes, or 17 minutes at least, 16. And so their Corsi was god-awful. No, I take that back. Their shot for was god-awful, but their Corsi was actually on positive. They were deflecting pucks wide, etc. But the advanced stats were really a weird picture because the Penguins weren't getting those chances on net. Oh, Brian will give me $5 for the boys. $5 in a jelly. By the way, I heard if there's a mouse in your beer, you get a free case, eh? 12 points in 5 games. Sidney Crosby, 4th in scoring. Thank you, Farmer. By the way, I don't know who did it, but if Crosby didn't score another point this season, his career average for points per season would be 87. Don't forget about the Bruins. I don't know what to make about the Bruins, Pens fan, 77. I really, really don't. I have been on their bandwagon now for probably 2 years, thinking they were Stanley Cup timber. I just, I don't know, man. I can't explain why they're third in the division. I think they should be hammering Toronto, and teams should be fearing Boston, but they're not. And Johansson getting hurt last night, being sent to the hospital. Don't know if you saw that. So teams that made trades at the deadline have been hammered by injuries. Look, Zuccarello breaks his arm in the first game against Dallas. Johansson traded to Boston, sent to the hospital. The Penguins pick up Goodbranson, and almost immediately they lose Chad Ruedel. They had already lost Letang and Dumoulin. I think that was maybe the impetus of that trade, or added some pressure to at least pick up a defenseman on the trade deadline. But then Ruedel goes out long-term, immediately. By the way, what do you all think of Zach Trotman? I have not noticed him, and I mean that as a compliment. I cannot tell you. I thought maybe Florida's second goal last night, there was something a little funky with how Trotman and Dumoulin played that. Trotman definitely played it as if he called a switch, because he stepped forward into the puck carrier, who probably, was Dumoulin's man at that moment. Instead of swinging wide to take Trocheck, was it Trocheck or Vetrano who one-timed it past Murray on the short side? Doesn't really matter, I guess. Dumoulin came back to the cage instead of taking the man. Now, I don't know. That could be Penguins' theory. That could be a bad switch. That could be an assumed switch that Trotman just played and kind of left Dumoulin out. Those are things you'll never get answers to. Other than that, a little bit of funkiness there. Trotman has been absolutely quiet, steady, calm. He's played the puck forward. He's done everything asked of him, kept it simple, and not been beaten. And that's the most important part. It doesn't matter if you get 3 scoring chances and, hey, look at me, if you get beat for a goal on the backside. And Trotman is making absolute certain he's not getting beat on the backside. So yeah. I hesitate to say this, but he's the kind of guy that should be getting maybe a bit more look in the NHL. I think he's proving himself to be a competent player. Let me get back to the chats here. Thrift Theater says, I don't see Goodbranson as a fighter. I'm sure he'll scrap with at least one of them, but do you think it's even important for him to drop the gloves and get revenge on Wilson, Simmons, or McQuaid? I don't know that there's any revenge needed on Adam McQuaid, is there? I don't know how dirty that was. And I don't know. Actually, you know what? The way Dumoulin talked, Dumoulin downplayed the dirtiness of the Simmons hit, too. Said he didn't like it. Said he got hit in a vulnerable position, and he certainly got hit high. But I guess what did the damage to Dumoulin was the rock-solid glass. It being cold, the glass didn't give, and so when Dumoulin's head snapped back and popped the window there, that's really what did it. I don't think the Penguins are in a position points-wise to do something stupid. And in part, a lot of that will be on Simmons as well. If he gets chippy when the Penguins are in Nashville, then yes, I think Goodbranson takes him out in the hallway for a chat. Absolutely 100% on that. But don't forget, Philadelphia felt like they had an axe to grind against the Penguins in that Stadium Series game because of Malkin's stick swinging and kind of blatant screw you attitude. Philadelphia was going to prove a little bit of a point to them. It goes both ways now. And so Simmons was quite aggressive. And I think a lot was buried at the end of that Stadium Series game. I've not been able to ask Evgeny Malkin about it yet. And here, just so you don't have to look at my face for a few seconds. At the end of the Stadium Series game, most of the Penguins had left the ice. As Philadelphia kind of hugged and celebrated, whatever, Malkin led a crew back to center ice to shake hands. I tweeted about it in the moment. Couldn't get the story in the locker room, though, and I don't think anybody else has to this point. Maybe it becomes relevant again in a week or two. But I think maybe some ill feelings were buried in that moment. And isn't that amazing about hockey? Yeah, he tried to take my head off, but it was part of the game. Shake hands. Okay, we feel better now. Good move by Malkin to not let it fester, to probably put some dirt on it and move on. But Tom Wilson, boy, there's a whole nother issue there. Let's not assume that Tom Wilson won't be the aggressor. Eric Goodbranson, Thrift Theater, Goodbranson has kicked Wilson's butt before. Took his lunch and handed it back to him. So Wilson, knowing the theater and dynamics of this rivalry and potential playoff matchup. Look, Penguins finished third, Capitals in second. Guess who plays in the first round? Yeah. So Wilson might come after Goodbranson. Look, I still think Wilson got the jump on Jamie Alexiak, who wasn't square, wasn't ready. It wasn't a square-off fight. It was Wilson charging across the ice. Definitely should have had the instigator in that. I can see that scenario unfolding again with Wilson. So Goodbranson's going to have his head on a swivel when those two teams get together again. Hi, Cindy. Maybe I missed it, but could you talk about Gino's recent play? Yes, he's out of his funk, but still making stupid mistakes. Or am I overreacting and looking for a scapegoat? Gino, Malkin is always going to make silly, stupid mistakes. And here's really what it comes down to. He doesn't know how to make the simple play. It is entirely ingrained in his DNA from the pawns in Russia to make the beautiful flowing play, to have superior skill and back that up with superior size. The whole Penguins evolution is to flip that, to use the superior size and then the skill. I don't think Malkin is playing poorly at all. I mean, he's clearly not dominating like Sidney Crosby, but no. I wouldn't put too much negativity on Malkin. I really wouldn't. He set Phil Kessel up last night for 3 beauties. I mean, just great passes. Look, let me go back to it here. Let me, is this the one? Yeah, right here. This is where Evgeny Malkin won the puck battle on the wall and hit Phil Kessel, who kind of spun around. I think we all thought Kessel had his goal. And then Malkin found Kessel on the doorstep again for a one-timer. I thought for sure Kessel was going to break his stick. He kind of clenched up. I could see his hands slide on the stick. Then he kind of just did a little jump turn, skated off the ice, muttering to himself before someone on the bench was kind of cracking him up a little bit. Malkin was dealing the puck last night. So if you want to give him a grade, I'd give him a B. The thing is, Cindy, we're all human beings, right? And I have to guard against myself doing this too, is when we get a perception, looking for things which reinforce that. I actually go the other way. I begin, when I feel like I'm locked in on something, I look for things to prove me wrong. I looked for more negatives on Jack Johnson. When the world was saying, Dan, Jack Johnson is bad at hockey, I looked for it. And, when everyone's like, Good Branson is bad at hockey, I looked for that. I looked for the other. This is kind of my challenge sometimes too. But don't get locked in to any one opinion, especially in hockey, because any opinion you have today, give it a week. Give it a week and a few examples. You'll see the opposite side too, and eventually the positives and minuses all get added up, and not everyone's Sidney Crosby where it's 100 positives and 1 minus. Although Malkin has had more negatives this year, I still think the positives outweigh. Yeah, Mateo says he beat Wilson, did Good Branson in a fight last year. Jay Poopsie. Heck of a name there, Jay. Which team in the Eastern Conference are you most scared for the Penguins to play? In my opinion, it's Boston. I don't think it's Boston. I think the Penguins are better at what Boston does well than is Boston. I think the Penguins have more high-end skill than does Boston. I don't think Brad Marchand would be quite the distraction to the Penguins that he would be to, say, Tampa Bay or the Islanders, teams that haven't been there before. When Marchand cranks it up, I don't know what he's going to do this year. Last year was the licking. Maybe this year it's picking his nose. I don't know what he's going to do, but I think the Penguins will be able to tune that out and play below the hash marks better than Boston. When push comes to shove, I think the Penguins have better goaltending than Boston, even if the stats don't back that up right now. And don't forget, the player that has always frustrated the daylights out of Malkin and Kessel has been Zdeno Chara. Chara is playing on his last leg. The Boston fans are kind of scapegoating him a lot now. So there are holes to exploit as well, which play to the Penguins' favor too. I like the Penguins better than Boston. If you ask me honestly, the team that I think would give the Penguins the most fits, the two of them. And you're going to, like, what is he talking about? The Carolina Hurricanes and the New York Islanders. The Islanders are so rigid in their system and fast that any Penguins mistakes, the Penguins try to go loose. If the Penguins get sloppy, the Islanders win. That's what's happened all season. The Islanders have owned the Penguins because when the Penguins take a breath and try to open it up, the Islanders just bore down and take it to them. And Carolina is faster than the Penguins. They have frustrated the Penguins because they have taken the Penguins' 2016 game to them and shoved it down their throat this season. Just no two ways about it. Carolina is faster than the Penguins, and they've caught fire. They are young and stupid and loving life. There are a lot of the Penguins 2016. I would have never guessed Peter Mrazek would be stellar in net, but hey, look at it. Nino Niederreiter is putting the puck in the net for them, which gives them the goal scoring that they've lacked all season. And once you start putting the puck in the net, then everything kind of opens up, because when you throw 45 shots at the other team and they're defending and you get that goal, now they have to open it up. And that allows Carolina to really exploit the Penguins and keep shooting and keep pressuring, because the Penguins have to try to transition on them. So otherwise, I think the Penguins are going to be in a slobber knocker with everyone else. I think they go toe-to-toe with Washington. I think Tampa's a bit better because of the blue line depth and maybe a bit more scoring depth as well. Tampa's probably a better team. We'll see if Vasilevsky has any gas left. They have really ridden him hard this season. So that's where I stand on that. I don't think Montreal is much of a competition for the Penguins when the real bullets fly in April. All right. Ricola got sent down to the baby Pens today. Thank you, Pens fan. We'll have to get that up on the website quickly here. Boston-Toronto will be a great first-round matchup. Yes, it will be. I think Boston might be able to grind them down a little bit, although I'd bet on Toronto in that series just because of the Tavares factor. Tyler asked if Sid keeps this up over the last 16 games, what do you think his chance at the Hart is? Ooh, good question. I don't think Sidney Crosby has a great chance at the Hart Trophy. I wish I could tell you differently. I wish I could say, hey, he's going to do it. I mean, part of it will depend. Let me see if I can add this in real quick. Yep, part of it will depend on the crew right there. Gensel, Letang, Dumoulin, and Brian Rust. I think if Crosby gets like 110 points, not just 100 or 102, but if he really, flies past 100, then he mitigates Kucherov's advantage in that. But understand, the Canadian media is preordained to give it to McDavid. Now, Edmonton's struggles this season really should disqualify McDavid. And the Penguins' surge, despite Malkin and Kessel's struggles, should eminently qualify Crosby. I would. I'm no longer a member of the Professional Hockey Writers Association this season. Won't tell you the story. Didn't have such great feelings about someone's decision, and I hope to be back in the Writers Union. Certainly think I'm a credible voice and doing the work to be in it. If I had a vote, I would put Crosby in my 3. I think I would put Crosby tops over Kucherov, because if you look at Tampa and you've got that talent which hasn't been struggling this year. Tampa hasn't struggled like the Penguins have. And so individual performances, Crosby would be my guy, but I think I'm in the minority right now. We'll see. Sometimes things catch fire in the Canadian media. It can be a bit of an echo chamber, let me tell you. First-hand experience. It's a pretty powerful echo chamber as well. Hey, Tom Wilson eats urinal cakes. How are you, sir? Am I the only one being hard on Kessel? I know he's getting assists, but goals are non-existent. Would love to see him turn it around before the playoffs. No, I think there's a very soft undercurrent of fans who are questioning their boy. Here's the funny thing. I have been opposite of fan sentiment from Phil Kessel since day one. I told you back in July of 2015 on my old little website, Pittsburgh Postgame, it was a great trade. I kept breaking down the daily negotiations. As I recall, I had a mole giving me a few little tidbits, but I was analyzing it, and I told you what Rutherford would end up paying as suitors dropped out because I knew Kessel's real value. He didn't have a great rep, and really Pittsburgh was the best possible destination for him. And I remember Penguins fans, no. And so a year goes by, and Penguins fans are yes, and I'm like, no. Kessel has to step forward in these areas to be effective, and so we role reversal, and now we're doing it again as Penguins fans are getting a little bit antsy about Kessel. Tom Wilson eats urinal cakes. What's that? TWEUC. Nah, there's nothing I can call you. T-Wook. Yeah, not going to work. So Tom Wilson. Kessel has played probably 4 or 5 really good games now. 4 good games in a row. He saved a goal last night. Back checking near his own net. I'm pretty sure he saved a goal. And in a tight game, 2-2, that's worth 2 goals. He has been making a concerted effort during this slump, and in his frustration, he has actually played hockey. I don't mean the one-dimensional hockey. I mean he's efforting to do things that he ordinarily doesn't reflexively do. So I've really liked Phil Kessel's game, comparatively speaking. It'll never be Sidney Crosby's game. If Phil Kessel got a vote for the Selke Award at any point, the writer should have his card taken and his blood alcohol content checked. Having said that, Kessel comparatively is playing some of his best 3-zone hockey that he's played since the 16 playoffs. Maybe even better than that, because he feels the need to contribute when he's not hitting the scoring sheet. Michael says it's time to sit Kessel for a few games. Maybe now. See, I don't, Michael. Don't need to light a fire under Kessel. That fire is there. Check Pittsburgh hockey now. Let me see if I can quickly get my my screen over here up for you. It's not motivation right now with Kessel. I certainly questioned that when Kessel's with Brassard. There were times when I wondered if either of those guys wanted to be on the ice with the other. It was ugly at times. But like I said, Kessel's really Kessel's moving lately. He really is. Don't undersell that. And don't get frustrated and take that shortcut that, he doesn't care. Believe me. He's there. Let's see here. Tyler, when it comes to people like McDavid or, Patrick Kane is another guy. If Chicago makes another late run for the playoffs, Kane has been brilliant this year. He really has. That's an undermanned team with some decrepit wheels on the backside and some under-talented wheels on the front side, and Patrick Kane has done yeoman's work in Chicago. Because I don't think a player on a non-playoff team should win, because how much worse would the team be without them if they already don't make the playoffs? If a team's bad and they almost make the playoffs, I think that's worthy. In McDavid's case, where they should be better than they are, and they're not going to, and they're at the bottom, I think that should be held in the Hart Trophy voting. Crosby for Selke. I know Jason Mackey has been kind of pushing that lately. That might be a consolation prize that the Canadian writers and the think tank adopts. They might rally around another candidate and say, well, but Crosby for Selke. You could see that very easily. Crosby won't win both. The writers are going to rally around one of the two to give Sid something because he deserves it. Although don't forget, Malkin lost the Hart Trophy. I think Malkin had it in his grasp at the end of last season. But after the trade deadline, Brassard came in, Kessel went in the tank, Malkin fell off, and Malkin, I think, was 7th or 8th, 9th maybe, in the Hart Trophy voting. So Crosby's got to finish. He's got to finish this run. He's got to get well over 100 points. And then he's firmly in the conversation. Hey, Big Chief, watch Kessel turn it up in the playoffs. Crosby is hungry for another cup. Yeah, isn't that amazing? I mean, how many players having won 3 Stanley Cups and knowing the hockey regular season is akin to climbing Mount Everest, getting to the top, and being dumped right back down on the bottom again, saying, okay, here we go. Now you have to climb it in half the time. Oh, and the storms are twice as strong. It's what a mental grind these guys go through. I don't even think the physical grind is the problem. I think it's the mental. But Crosby he's on it. There's no question about that. Do want to thank our sponsors, as you can see here. Beaver County Auto will make a Beaver believer out of you. I know it's we're almost to the spring. You start your car shopping, you'll get a better deal if you go to Beaver County Auto. All of the big brands, brand new and used cars, to check them out online. And if you make the trip up to Beaver County, if you're on the north side of the world, when you go up there, make sure you tell them that Pittsburgh Hockey Now, Pittsburgh Sports Now, and Pittsburgh Sports Live sent you. Please do. And I can't tell you what, I know they're going to take care of you just a wee bit better. All right, so that's about an hour from me. Last call for questions. Last call for alcohol. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, so fire away. I will encapsulate Eric Goodbranson. Good. Much better than I thought. I think he is adapting to the Penguins system because I think it's playing to the player he wants to be. And the Penguins are taking a bit of the handcuffs, the straitjacket off of him, and it's working. I think his confidence is growing. I think he's going to be an asset for the Penguins. Certainly a very good third-pairing defenseman. In terms of the Penguins' identity, they're finally playing to it. It took Chris Letang and Brian Dumoulin to get injured for the Penguins to rally around their defensemen and begin to play the simple, gritty, grimy hockey that Sullivan has been begging them for. But thank the hockey gods for that one. There's your big silver lining. If the Penguins do something in the playoffs, circle the Stadium Series game. Without question, that's when they began to become a team. It really is. That's when they really rallied around each other and got in the foxhole and started to battle. Before then, it was this line battling. It was these few players battling. It was never 4 lines and 3 pairs just going to war together. Now they are. And it's no coincidence that they've got points in 5 straight despite missing Chris Letang, despite missing Brian Rust and Oli Mata. It's no coincidence. It really is more of a mindset than it is talent sometimes. All right, so Brad asked if all Pens D-men are healthy. What are your pairings? Oh, that's really good. So, off the cuff, Brad. Obviously, Dumoulin Letang, right? And then I think you keep Johnson, Schultz. Yeah. You don't want Goodbranson and Johnson together. I don't think there's not enough puck movement on that pairing, and you're concentrating your thump all in one pairing. So I think Schultz and Johnson stay together. Then you go Mata, Goodbranson, maybe. I really don't know. Let's maybe work it backwards, because Oli Mata is a bit better than Jack Johnson, a bit more complete. So if it becomes Mata Schultz on that second pairing, Pettersson Johnson again as your third pairing, and Goodbranson becomes your seventh, depending on the matchup. Maybe it becomes Pettersson, Goodbranson, and Johnson becomes your seven, depending on the matchup. Those are two very possible scenarios, and I think the Penguins would like to see everyone get healthy and check. I really do. I think they'd like to have a few trial runs of these pairings rather than hitting the playoffs and going, help. However, if Oli Mata is not, if Oli Mata is coming back cold in the playoffs, I really could see them kind of making Mata the 7th D for a little while too, just to get a lay of the land. Let's see here. Oh, all the questions come pouring in. Okay, so I'll keep going. I'll always answer every question here. Don't get the hate for 73 and 44. Tom Wilson, listen, that's why I exist. There is no question my business has done gangbusters this year, in part because I've provided an alternative to I don't want to speak ill of my professional competition, and I'm not going to. Stay in my own lane. But I've provided more in-depth analysis than some of my professional competition. And I've provided more fair and reasoned analysis, information, reporting than the blogosphere. I really like kind of the island we've carved out for ourselves. I'll tell you what, one guy who really gets it, I so much enjoy talking to Jonathan Bomboli of the Trib. Never a better guy on a hockey beat has there been. Bomboli is just fantastic. And I chat with him. But it looks like my video is freezing up a little bit, is it? Is that what I'm seeing? Anyway, yeah, I guess we're hitting the buffer again. So I do have to wrap it up. I feel like it's it's like flash photography here. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, I'm talking to Bomboli. Those guys understand that I have to be more analytical to carve out a niche, and I get more leeway to ask some deeper questions or get in their way a little bit, and I appreciate how they have treated me very, very much. So there you is. That is done. That's all for now, kids. Do me a favor, like, share, comment, and spread the word. Until we talk again, have fun.